Hello everybody and welcome to Gingereno's playthrough of Pillars of Eternity. I'm your host Eric, aka Gingereno. I'm the host of the World of Eora podcast, which is a news and lore podcast featuring the Pillars of Eternity games, that's Pillars of Eternity 1 and Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, as well as Obsidian Entertainment's upcoming release, Avowed. Now, we pair those games together because they share the same fantasy world of Eora. And so the fantasy setting for this game is Eora, and the fantasy setting for Avowed will be in Eora. Now, this Let's Play is primarily for those out there who are hyped about Avowed, and they want to learn more about the lore of the world, but, Pillars of Eternity just isn't their style of game. They're not into that CRPG style of gameplay, and so primarily, this Let's Play will be going through the main narrative of the first game. So I'm not doing a lot of the side quests, and I have everything on easy mode. It's mostly just a way to soak in the world, to actually see visually what the developers at Obsidian created. As well, if you're into Pillars of Eternity yourself, this is also a video for you to just geek out and check out a world that you love as well. But yeah, so with that all said, let's get into today's gameplay. One thing I want to mention quick before we get started is that I have developer commentary turned on, and so at some point within the game, a little scroll will unroll here in the top right corner of the game, and it'll give commentary on the place that we're in. I don't know for sure if all or any of the commentary will have spoilers in it, so when you see that little thing pop up, if you don't want spoilers because you want to go through this naturally as it unfolds, just pause this video and scroll ahead until you see that that's gone. As for that, we are currently in Brackenbury Sanitarium, which is a place in the middle of Defiance Bay, the main city in the world that we're playing in. So this area, this is the Deerwood. That's the area we're playing in, the Deerwood, which is part of this new continent that was discovered. And we are in the city of Defiance Bay. We're currently in the Brackenbury section in this Brackenbury Sanitarium. This is where animancy is performed and experimented. And animancy, as we'll find out, is the science of the soul. You know how, your body is made up of carbon? Well, your soul in this world is made up of essence, capital E essence. And so animancy is the study of essence, both the manipulation of it and the properties of it. Anyways, I like to, when we start something new, go into the encyclopedia to see if there's anything lore-wise that we want to look at. We were just talking about animancy, so let's see what the official lore is for animancy in the encyclopedia for this game. The science of soul manipulation, a field both controversial and relatively new, banned in some nations like Adir, but permitted in other countries like Deerwood and the Valian republics. The Adir Empire is an empire across the ocean from the Deerwood, which is where we're playing. The Deerwood is originally a colony of Adir, but they recently achieved their independence. And the Valian republics are kind of like the Deerwood in the sense that they are a colony to the south of the Deerwood that originate from Grand Valia. So currently in these new countries, animancy is not outlawed, but in a lot of old ones, it is outlawed. And perhaps we'll learn why as we play.
As you wish.
All right, where am I going? What am I doing? Let's see. Quests. Speak to the head warden. Okay, looks like I'm doing the man who waits. So I'm trying to speak to the head warden of Brackenbury Sanitarium. I'm looking for some leads that I got from the last episode where we infiltrated the Leaden Key, well, at least a meeting that they had. And we're trying to figure out where this guy is that we saw at the beginning of the game who turned my soul awakened, which is going to drive me mad after a while. Head Warden Iselmyr. All right. This is just the conversation going on between these two. An animancer from the public's Bancello has requested a visit. Looks like there's an animancer, a foreign animancer, who's nearby. Maybe that might come up later. All right. A well-maintained statue of a middle-aged man presides over the room, looking down and blinking over the bustle of hurried academics pestered by the hopeful desperate. A strong warmth emanates from it that you could sense from across the room. There is a human soul stored beneath the stonework. You feel its attention turned towards you.
It has been some time since a watcher graced these halls.
His voice echoes deeply, rumbling the floor beneath you.
I am envious of your natural insights, traveler. I can only imagine how it might have helped my work in life. Now, what is it that has brought you to my sanitarium?
You may have a member of the Leaden Key in your midst. Iselmyr groans and the stone around him shudders.
I could not have done without hearing that today. Many have their intrusions been into our affairs. Of course, one can seldom be certain whether they are meddled or whether calamity has struck on its own. But a few of the less skilled infiltrators have been exposed from time to time. They are a perpetual nuisance. Once again, I am reminded of how envious I am of your gifts. I suspect they would be of some use in verifying one's identity. You are at odds with the Leaden Key as well, I take it?
They have something I need.
I hope it isn't knowledge you seek. They are seldom keen to part with it. Do you have some idea of who this person might be?
I won't know until I've met them.
Very well. In that case, I would recommend you speak first with our resident animancers. They have frequent interactions with both patients and colleagues. You'll find them up here or in their offices downstairs. You will report anything suspicious to me immediately. This is my only request.
I'm curious as to know how you came to be in your present state.
In the statue, you mean? Well,
he laughs.
I was old, and it seemed wrong to me a lifetime spent in pursuit of discovery, only to lose it all in death. Somewhere, someday, I would wake up in a new body, none the wiser, and pursue a different course entirely. All that experience wasted. If we are ever to unearth the principles behind our existence, it will be in spite of our condition. Of that I am quite sure. To live on as part of something I helped build seemed to me a better legacy than to what nature had in store. The transfer itself was quite simple, as our techniques go, and for that I am grateful. Playing with souls is far easier to accept when they are not your own. I do miss being able to take an active role in the scholarly efforts here. Now and again one of our animancers will humor me and consult over some problem, but they are a jealous breed and too often afraid to collaborate. If you are considering it yourself, I can tell you that it isn't for the easily bored.
Does anyone here know anything about awakenings?
There's an animancer on the lower floor who came all the way from Rovia to study them. Take the stairs down and look for fLeSh.
All right, farewell. All right, speak with head warden. Question the animancers about suspicious activity. Pew. All right, well, let's check out this room.
This man's soul is turned asunder by a Buick. As you can see, the patient is unresponsive, common after soul trauma. The animancer places a small stone upon the patient's forehead.
I don't know why I read that as if he was saying it. Can I even talk to him right now? Nope, he's busy.
A portion of his soul was...
Can you hear me, Oswin?
The patient's eyes slowly open before a panicked, wild expression washes over him.
Unfortunately, the extended disassociation has permanent side effects.
The patient becomes more agitated, grunting and moaning as he tugs at his bonds.
With further research, we're confident we'll be able to rehabilitate patients like Oswin.
Does he go bonkers? No. Aldmar.
Hail, traveler.
Hail, traveler.
Nice.
Have you come to sit in?
A bald man with a crooked nose gestures in demonstration over the still body of a patient before a small gathering of interested onlookers. Feeling your gaze, he pauses his discussion.
Hey, has anything unusual or suspicious been happening here?
He shakes his head.
Definitely not up here. We can't be scaring off visitors and potential clients, you know.
His voice becomes quiet.
Downstairs is where the, more esoteric research is done. I'd check with the animancers there.
What should I do? It would be in the lower level. All right. Well, Stairs over here. It's creaking everywhere. And screaming.
Caring for mentally ill citizens is pretty primitive in this era of Pillars of Eternity, hence the dungeon-like conditions the patients are living in. Nobody really expects the patients to be cured. This is just a place to hide them away and forget about them.
Alright then. Alright. Here we are. Bunch of office doors. I'm gonna go left. Ooh, Bella Sage. I'm supposed to talk to you.
Hail, traveler.
Hail, traveler. Oh boy, that's the voice I'm going with, I guess. A woman paces back and forth, her feet crunching on the soft red carpet. She gestures and mumbles to herself, shaking her head as she pores over pages of notes. She almost walks into you. Ekosi, here I am, looking so hard for answers in my research that I do not see the kith standing in front of me. What can I do? Hey, I'm looking for an expert on awakenings. She laughs bitterly. Ach, that would be me, though the lack of research subjects has made me more of an expert than counting floorboards. I would like to transfer animancy's success in buttressing pre-awakened souls to soothing those who have souls already awakened. But I need subjects, and most of the patients here are too broken to produce reliable results. It is a tragedy to have come so far for nothing. Hey, you're in luck. I have a volunteer. She springs to the balls of her feet, beaming. Gellard, who is it? Aloth's lips curl into a frown. I don't know about this. She grins more broadly still. Don't be silly. The process is perfectly harmless. All you must do is stand in that cage. I beg your pardon? I jest. You Adirans are so uptight. I do not even know what that thing is used for. It belongs to the last occupant of this office, I think. Now they upgrade him to a cell. Again, I jest. She rubs her hands together, getting down to business. So, I need you to sit here. She takes Aloth by the shoulders and steers him to the couch. And try to relax. But don't try too hard, then you will not be relaxing. Indeed. His eyes are humorless. And you must also wear these. A little cold, but the copper will help conduct your essence. The Animaster fastens thick copper bands to Aloth's forehead and wrists. As she ratchets them tighter, his face twitches with suppressed irritation. Copper is often used in animancy experiments because of its conductivity for essence, which again is what your soul is made of. Now I will examine your soul through my scope. She reaches into her desk and produces a long, chambered tube. Knobs, dials, and small toothed wheels run along the side of the device. It is fitted with Adra lenses cut into different thicknesses and concavities. By manipulating them, I find the angles and densities that will allow me to track the anomalies in your soul. That's kind of cool.
How exciting! I've never seen this sort of thing performed.
Can peers at the device with interest.
It seems suitably complicated.
Does this mean we get to talk about Iselmyr more? I like that lady. She raises a finger. But first, we must find this cunning interloper. You will answer some personal questions while I make adjustments. Sagani pats his arm. Don't worry. I'm sure we won't hear any of it. Aloth squirms on the couch. Very well. She holds the scope to her eye and flicks a knob. To begin, tell me something personal. Something from a time before your awakening. There's nothing to tell. I was just a normal child living in the Seathwood. He looks to you, his face set in a frown, but the rigid edges of apprehension show through nervousness. The Seathwood is an area in the Adir Empire across the ocean. What do you remember about your home? As you speak to Aloth, you feel your voice like a bell in your chest. It tolls softly, luring him into the mists of its own memory. Bella Sage doesn't seem to notice anything, but you feel as if your words are soothing his essence, untangling its many threads. He closes his eyes. Comfortable, modest, quiet when Mother is away, which is most of the time. Quiet enough to hear the clink of glass on wood. This is when I know to be most careful. Father is good about hiding the bottles. Mother, when she is home, is good at pretending not to notice them. This is good. I am starting to see something. Continue. Tell us about the time you awakened. She bites her tongue as she twists one of the dials. I am in my 5th year of training. Mother is home. I
can't let my guard down a little because when she is around, he is usually only angry with her. But he has heard that I have had trouble casting missiles, that my flame shields are unstable. He is furious that I have failed, and Mother's presence reminds him that he has failed too. The first blow takes me by surprise. One moment I am sweeping the kitchen, the next I am sprawled on the ground, stupidly looking at flecks of my blood on the tile. His boots, glistening with fresh polish, thud across the floor. He kicks me in the stomach, and I curl up to my vitals. But it's pointless. Protecting one thing leaves something else exposed. Still huddled on the ground, I retreat as fast as I can. I retreat until the vision of the kitchen and my own trembling knees is nothing but a pinprick against the field of black. His jaws lock and his eyes twitch beneath their lids. Medico! Belisage furiously cranks the knobs along her scope. He's hypnotizing himself with his old memory. You've got to bring him out of it. Quickly. I almost have it. Squeezing Aloth's hand. You're safe. Everything's fine. Aloth's eyes snap open, but the expression you see him isn't his. He's ne'er safe when I hap upon him. Belisage sucks a deep breath through her teeth. That's it. I'm seeing a shift in his essence. Something spreading and congealing. She glances over at her scope. Keep talking. He seems to respond to you.
What brought you here?
Cracking bones and voices high and higher. That warm molasses feeling that creeps down your gut when crisis is nigh. I hope I've got the right voice for that. Belfetto. We have used flares of a totally distinct essence. She jots shorthand notes onto the pages next to her and turns one clicking knob of her scope. Now try to get the two of them talking.
Aloth, ask Iselmyr what she's doing.
Aloth's face twists in fury. Sticking weed, worming parasite. He burst into sudden laughter. You'd say the same to your unkindling twig when it betrays ye. Adair grins. Must be hard to avoid knowing there's a lady in your body the whole time judging you. Good, yes, very good. She rests from her scribbling, only to make another adjustment to her scope. I can now see two separate patterns of essence, where he ebbs, the other flows. It's as if the awakened soul fills the spaces that he leaves empty. She prompts you with a circling of her wrist, quill still in hand. Go on.
Aloth, what's this about ceding space to Iselmyr?
He grits his teeth painfully. I've given her nothing. She usurps me in my own body. Aye, and I lend him a pair too. Ye should ask what I did on the old man of his. How the last time he laid his hand on us, I break it in 3 pieces. Aloth's head jerks to the side. That wasn't your decision. It's never been your decision. Now I was awakening, but I'm stuck with ye, and damned if I let your ninnying drag us both through the scupper. Ack, very good. She lowers her scope and consults her notes. I think I finally found something we can work with. I've tracked Iselmyr's essence through the exchange. She had a particularly high density index during the most heated portions of their argument, and her essence seems to localize most clearly in the lower portion of the subject's left rib cage. That's right around the spleen, which of course means she is triggered by black bile. No doubt the subject's characteristic melancholy is to blame. Aloth blinks back at you, and in the midst of his perturbation, you're not quite sure who's looking out of his eyes. That's utter horseshit. Sagani's eyes are wide and innocent. It doesn't see as though she got one thing right. She glares at him. Yes, never mind my years of training. I suppose you have a better explanation?
Well, how about this? Iselmyr manifests when Aloth is in danger or under pressure.
Belisage carefully scratches her jaw, her gaze darting between you and Aloth. I suppose that could be true. She jots another note. I'll have to check this against other research. He removes the coffer bands. Well and good for you, but what does this mean for me? Belisage frowns at her notes, tapping her cheek with a quill and making a grand show of concentration. However, you catch her stealing a glance at you over the pages.
Iselmyr tries to take control from you when she thinks you can't face a problem on your own. You can't let her make these decisions for you.
My thoughts exactly. I'll have to be more careful about it from now on. I've got a lot to process. Regardless, thanks for your help, Eric. He does not look at Belisage. She sets her notes on her desk and returns to her scope. Well, I hope this has been as useful to you as it has been to me.
I finally have material worth publishing. You'll be the toast of Revuia. Fentreath. His grimace melts into a crooked smile. Aye, advancing the rightwise principles of animancy. Just what ye've always wanted. As you turn to leave, you catch a darting movement out of the corner of your eye. Belisage is humming to herself, still occupied with her scope, but Aloth is holding her notes. He's just about to tuck them into his cloak when he catches you watching. He holds a finger to his lips, his eyes wide and imploring. Please, I don't want my personal information published like this. Especially not after her nonsense. No. Listen, you get your explanation and she gets her research. That was the deal. He slides the papers back onto the desk, giving you a rueful look. I'm nigh gonna help ye explain this one, scholar boy. Dang.
Yes.
I believe we just... Yes. We just completed Aloth's side quest. Cool. Well... That was fun. Let's see what's behind door number 2. I guess we should probably do some leveling up first, actually. So what just happened was we had an experiment done on Aloth to see that there are 2 different kind of essences inside of him. There's a past life that has awakened. And you can decide at this point in the side quest whether you want him to engage with Iselmyr, his... the other person that's inside of him, if you were. He can try to suppress her, or he can let her have more control, or they can kind of share control of the body. And I opted to have Aloth have more control. And if you're interested in seeing what happens, either we'll have to wait until I do another playthrough. My cat's going bonkers in here. Sorry about that. Or you'll have to try a playthrough yourself. Anyways, let's do some leveling up. All right. So, how this works, as I've mentioned before, we get skills, class unlocks, and talents. Not always in every single one. Because my character is going to be lore-focused, I'm going to increase this as much as the points will let me. And then I'm going to place the remaining points in something else, probably mechanics. Alright, and then I have to choose an invocation. So, an invocation are... Okay, so an invocation are basically the spells that I'm casting, right? So I am a chanter, and when a chanter chants his chant, he gains magical ability, and then he can spend that magical ability to cast an invocation. Now, I have been trying to choose stuff that sounds as much death metal as possible, so let's see what we got. But when he dare its ghost, he would not rest, and hell Herif crashed upon the shield, not felled by the axe nor broken by the storm. The thunder rolled like waves on black seas. Thrice was she wronged and thrice justly avenged. I like this one here. The thunder rolled like waves on black seas. Not felled by the axe. Crashed upon the shield. Oh, this one's good too. All right, let's. It's a tie between this one and this one. Let's see what we got. This one calls Beyond the Shroud and summons a phantom to fight for the party. Ooh, that's pretty good. I like summoning. This one creates a thunderous explosion that stuns and shoves enemies in the area of effect. That's also good. But this one seems a lot more death metal to me. Yeah, that's right. Getting a piece of the undead out here to help me out. Yes, do it. Ooh, a talent time. Cool. Everything from Acolyte's Radiance down is kind of like the multi-classing options in this game, which are not super robust. It's just sort of like one from each class. I'm just going to go with the regular class talent, which is Beloved Spirits. Proves the chanter's connection to the soul fragments they employ, increasing Ancient Memory's healing capacity, which is an Ancient Memory is it's an ability that I already have. All right. I'll go through the rest of these a little quicker. All right. This goes up twice, and that's that. Bonus knockdown. That means I can knock down again. Yeah, let's just do that. Going through it quickly. So Adair can knock more people down. Congratulations, Adair. Here's another chanter character. This is Kanarua. Oh man, he is looking for knowledge here in the Deerwood. especially having to do with a particular tablet, which you can find in I think in the lower depths of the hidden paths, the endless paths beneath CoNsTrUcts. All right, now he's gonna have to get something, but I don't know what. Let's pick one of the ones that I would not pick, because that's a little more. Let's see. Reduces damage reduction of enemies in the area effect, or increases slash and shock reductions for allies in the area. Let's go with this one. And you also get beloved spirits. And last one is Durance, our lovely Magranite priest, who is foul-mouthed and has quite the history and a great beard. I think Chris Avellone did the writing for this character, actually. All right, what do you have maxed out? Yours is mechanics, stealth, and athletics, and survival. Why not? Just mix and match. All right. Oh yes. What's the one here? Okay, I think interdiction. Yes, that's the one we want. So early on with Durance, I found interdiction to be just absolutely necessary to have. Basically, it just dazes a whole bunch of enemies at once, and that is really helpful when you start getting hit by a lot of enemies. Okay. Awesome. Hey, characters all level up. Let's go here. What's up, Modred?
Indeed.
Okay. All right, let's talk to Modred. An animancer scribbles feverishly on a parchment scroll while his free hand dances through the air, counting off unseen objects. His lips move in silent discourse. As your shadow falls over his scroll, he looks up at you with mingled perplexity and irritation.
Welcome.
Can I help you? He forces a polite smile. Hey, has anything unusual been happening around here? You must be joking. This is the sanitarium. Nothing is unusual down here. Nothing is usual down here, pardon me. He pauses, although, now that I think of it, the patients seem more agitated lately. But they're Caedmon Aza's responsibility, not mine. Modred nods, taking a deep breath. Then, if there's nothing else, what are you working on there? My area of focus is wicks, more specifically how to cure them. What's a wict? A hollowborn who received a transplanted animal soul during infancy. One of the animancy's early efforts to cure the legacy, if not a successful one. He removes his spectacles and wipes his brow. They show signs of developmental abnormalities through their childhood, but when they reach adolescence, they become aggressive, feral. But still some victims in need of care. Transplanting animal souls into children? That seems like an odd solution. We animancers were trying to do something about the crisis, better than letting it swallow a generation of children. He stares at a fixed point on the far wall. And despite the controversy, it only went on for so far because, at first, it seemed to work. People called it the salvation. Children that had never been responsive to any kind of stimuli suddenly seemed aware of the surroundings, of their families. He takes a slow breath. The complications don't begin until puberty, but that's when the incompatibilities between body and soul take shape. Children become violent and ravenous. But we paid dearly for our mistake, I promise you. Angry mobs hunted down animancers and burned down their homes, with them still inside, often as not. People looking to call it the cruel salvation, and many still loathe us for it, but we didn't want to stop the legacy as much as anyone. The public begged for our help, and we did the best we could. I still don't know if that absolves us. I see. Good. He looks eager to return to his work. Listen, I'm looking for an expert on awakenings. I hear that Valiant woman studies them. You should go talk to her instead. All right. I didn't know McKibben is responsible for the cure. I should probably go talk to Caedmon Azo. So he was talking about the salvation. The salvation being how animancers were putting animal souls into the bodies of kith creatures to try to save the Hollowborn crisis, which, if you haven't been paying attention up till now, is a crisis going on in the Deerwood where children are being born without souls. And so this was a solution to that soul, is to put an animal soul into a infant's body that was empty. And it seemed to work until they hit puberty, and then they became violent creatures. And there's one thing that like Modred doesn't tell you about this, is that they did this on, I think, thousands of kids, which means they performed this experiments over a long period of time, and then boom, a whole bunch of them hit puberty, and they suddenly will have to realize, how many souls did we implant into kids, and how many of them are going to go feral? Like, there's a lot of behind the scenes context about like what they would have had to have done as experts in this field. All right, Ripley, are you going to give me the information I want?
Hello.
Hello. A young Orlan woman traces her fingers along the spines of the books in front of her, row by row, her motions quick and skittish, like a bird's. She does not notice you until you are nearly upon her. Oh my, you startled me. Are you supposed to be in here?
I'm investigating any suspicious activity in the sanitarium.
Oh, I'm just Master Azo's assistant. He'd know more about that, but he's in the middle of an busy with some patients. You won't be able to see him until he comes out from the patient ward. If there's nothing else, I need to get back to work.
Is Azo busy with the patients, or is he running some sort of experiment?
I'm just an assistant. It's not my place to gossip. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, how do I get into the patient ward?
Only Master Azo has access. I guess Head Warden Iselmyr does too, but he's, a statue.
Well, what do you do here?
I mostly help Master Azo set up and clean his equipment. I also help keep his office organized, since he's too busy to do it himself.
All right, farewell.
Oh, I hit this by accident. Bing. More leveling up. Question the Anna. Okay, talk to Iselmyr about Azo. Okay, we'll do that. Let's level up. All right, you are good in lore and in mechanics. All right, now I'm going to pick me some spills. All right, may as well pick more death metal stuff because that's what I'm into. All right, bewildering spectacle, blinding web, bulwark, enemies, combusted wounds. That sounds. New curse of blackened sight. That's also a good one. I only get to pick one. Okay, it's going to be one of these three. Causes enemy wounds in the area of effect to ignite, inflicting additional burn damage over time each time they are wounded. Console Hot's corrosive siphon eats away at the target's spirit, inflicting corrosive damage, and converts their essence into endurance for the caster. Ooh. Shrouds the target's vision in total darkness, blinding them. Okay, well, my voice changed when I did that one, so that must be the one I'm doing. Alright, and then I get to pick one of these. Let's see, Arcane Veil conjures a protective shield of magic. Allows the wizard to smash an enemy with a grimoire, and concentrates the power of blast, negating some of the target's damage resistance. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to do that. Ooh, actually, what was this? Oh, this is a bonus first level spell. Nah, we'll go with Penetrating Blast. Cool. And Sagani, what do you got for me? Up in stealth, up in that, and athletics. Yeah, all right. Now, ooh, a lot of companion stuff here. So, Vicious Companion trains the ranger's animal companion in vicious tactics, causing it to deal more damage. Okay, I'm looking at the companion ones. Animal commands improved damage reduction against all damage types. Faithful. The ranger's animal companion gains improved defenses against all of these. That would be helpful, actually, because it's annoying when her creature is charmed or dominated. So let's that might be the one. Commands do a small amount of sneak damage against their targets. Cool. I don't sneak very much in this game. All right. Apparently, I've just been chilling here the whole time. All right. Oh, Iselmyr. I've come to talk to you about Cadman Azo.
Good day to you.
His voice can't. He keeps. Yeah, whatever.
Have you heard anything of interest? Maybe. Is Cadman Azo running experiments on the patients here? Experiments? Cadman Azo is in charge of patients' welfare now. He is not authorized to run any more experiments. I am disappointed in Cadman. I had hoped he would be one to guide your inquiry. He'll be in his office or in the patient wards. I am granting you immediate access so you can find him. No doubt you will wish to speak to him further on this matter. and I, for one, am curious as to what he might have to say. Tread carefully in the wards. There are a few dangerous cases. I would also ask that you do your best to not agitate the patients. They have enough troubles as it is.
Excellent. Thank you for sending me from one loading screen to another. I really appreciate it. This is an honor. I love looking at loading screens. Ka-chow. Actually, though, the loading screens let me check on how long the time is running for. It also doesn't really last that long. Doesn't matter, you guys. I cut it out anyways. The head warden says you can go in. Be careful in there. Cool. Well, dang. Alright. Alright, so investigating the patient ward. That's about it. I'm basically just looking for Cademan Azo. Do you know where he is, Freyal? Freyal. A curved spine twists this woman's posture forward, her greasy hair draped over her large eyes like vines. She smiles at you.
You must be visiting someone.
Then, noting your appearance, she adds,
A friendly visit, I hope.
What do you know? Wow, I just got my character's voice wrong. What do you know about this animancer, Azo?
Oh, I like him very much. Many animancers would care less about their patients. Look at us like vermin for their experiments, but Master Azo treats us like humans, even the very sick. You can tell he does this to help people. He helped me understand a great deal about myself, and I know he's done the same for others. It's too bad what they did to him. He hides it well, but I know he's still affected by it.
Wait, what happened to Azo? Frail's eyes dart back and forth, and her voice lowers to just above a whisper.
They don't like to talk about it, but there was an accident. He said to be one of the brightest in Dealwood, but that was his reputation here, and that was what brought me to seek treatment. People say it was his ego that drove him to try and solve the legacy, but that's hogwash. Even if he is a bit of a showman, he loves his homeland. He thought it could help. He wasn't one to speak of his work, suspecting his colleagues might have tried to steal it, but he told me once that he'd figured a way to create a soul. Not a soul exactly, mind you. How did he put it? A proxy, I think he called it. Had some machine that drew energy out of the very aether. Can you imagine? The point is, I was going to help with the legacy, but it was going to make Hollowborn into something easier to love and care for. Gods know that's something we need. Do you know what they call those empty little babies in Andra's gift? No, tell me. They call them buoys, because so many of them are found floating face down in the water. These are mad times. Anyway, Master Azo has scheduled a public demonstration of his work in Copper Lane. He was so excited. And the next day, he was locked in his office, turning away visitors, I heard, and he stopped seeing patients. I don't know exactly what happened, and I don't have the heart to ask him, but I'm glad they're letting him treat people again. Okay, do you know where I might find Azo? I think I've seen him around today. Have you checked the laboratory? It shares a wall with his office. He's been spending most of his time in there.
All right, farewell. All right. A laboratory. Can I talk to this thing? The CoNsTrUct turns its head towards you and watches warily. I was just up here.
Cademan, you bugger, I've been looking everywhere for you.
A round-faced, balding man turns to face you. His upper lip is pulled upward slightly, and by his pointed nose exposing his upper teeth when he scowls.
What is the meaning of this?
Iselmyr told me you're not supposed to be doing any more experiments.
Yes, well, Iselmyr hasn't done so much good for anybody since he had his soul moved to an inanimate object, so I fail to see why I should let that one sway me. If animancers all followed the commands of their leader, where would we be? We'd all be as backward and willfully ignorant as Ray had Ceres. We know nothing about life or death, even ourselves. We would be lost in the dark with no clue as to why.
Our leaders guide us, and without them we risk losing our way. If this man would strike off his own, then let him fend for himself.
without the benefit of the sanitarium.
All right. You toy with things beyond our comprehension. It's dangerous and foolish.
Are you from Rayed Ceres? Are you Widewin himself, risen to smite me for my heretical belief in learning who I am and why I exist? Please. You are afraid because men have taught you to be afraid. Because they were taught to be afraid. These things are only beyond our comprehension because of the fears of people like you. Who will solve Widewin's legacy? Some church? Some warrior? It will be an animancer, or it will be no one at all.
Hey, listen. Sorry, I need to know if you've seen any unusual behavior out of your patients.
You're going to get a lot of looks asking questions like that in a sanitarium for the unbalanced. In truth, I have spent little time treating them since I have been reduced in my capacities. You might have some luck with your more functional patients. They tend to congregate in the main area, just past the entrance to the patient's ward. Ooh. I would like computer to see what the options are. There we go.
Have you tried your experiments on any other subjects?
I have. Yes, no point in lying about it. Now that Iselmyr is involved, I asked for volunteers from our patients, and a few brave souls came forward. I was very close at one time to a breakthrough. They understood that. They understood their sacrifices would mean something.
I heard you were demoted. How did that happen?
Azo's nostrils flare, and he bares his upper teeth more broadly. That's none of your concern. Did one of the others put you up to this? Admir? That smug weasel? Things went wrong. Everything. I don't know. I'll never know. He spits on the floor as if to remove a bitter taste from his mouth.
All right. Goodbye.
Interview patient claims only little times of patients. He suggests that the more functional patients in the front of the ward might be more likely to have seen unusual behavior. Cool. Time to go to the front of the ward. Hello, patient.
Master Hassel says he'd make me better soon.
Oh. Well, let's start here. Nope. 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 I don't think any of that's going to work. Well, while I'm here. Ooh, we have a book. Delightful. Yeah, I should probably... Ooh, what's this? Stronghold. Cool. Oh, I could probably build some stuff. Shush you. Oh, yes. I can build things for my stronghold. Perfect. A lot of these require other things. A lot of them require the main keep, so I should probably do that. Cool. There goes all of my money. Well, I've gone through all this stuff. Is there anything you're not telling me?
What is it now?
Nope. I got all this stuff. I guess I just gotta talk to Frail.
Good day, stranger.
Have any of the patients here been acting unusually?
Well, there's Batix, who lives a murder she committed more than 5 lifetimes ago. Idleman, who says they only have half a soul, and was found collecting the faces of others because he believed his own to be a false one. Graham, he speaks in a language no one understands and wails at night sometimes.
Different from their novel behavior, I mean.
Well, yes, I suppose, but nothing they didn't volunteer for. Master Azo let us know that a number of patients in the North Ward had volunteered for a new therapy and would be escorted to his laboratory to receive treatment. The North Ward has our most troubled cases. I'm glad some of them have chosen to get help. It seems to me it's gotten quiet over there since it started. It's Graham I see them taking the most. He struggles, but he's always a bit of a wild one.
Would I be able to visit the North Ward? They like to keep them separate. I don't know that I've ever seen the guards allow a visitor, just Master Hazo. You might ask him. He's very sympathetic.
Cool.
What is it now?
I'd like access to the North Ward.
Out of the question. Those patients are in their isolation for a reason.
So you can coerce them into your experiments?
Frail told me everything.
She's a patient! That blazing woman knows nothing of the nature of my experiments.
He balls up his fist and digs his teeth into his index finger, a growling simmering beneath his breath and deep scowl compressing his face.
Fine. Speak to them for all the good it'll do you. I'm sure the discussions will be fascinating.
He pulls a heavy key from one of his pockets and nearly slams it down on the floor before handing it to you.
Well, that wasn't so hard now, was it? See, Captain, we're best friends. Best friends.
Unlock with North Ward key.
These poor people. This isn't the treatment that they were promised upstairs by the cushioned seats and lush carpets. Is that the cure for soul sickness? To be thrown into a cell and subjected to the whims of your captor?
And maybe it is. How would you know? Kana winces. I have seen the sick and mad exiled, or else treat like contagious vermin, but I cannot believe that this is the kindest alternative. But if all were treated like this, the sanitarium would never survive. What do these patients do to warrant such conditions?
There are just as many who come here and are cured of their ills, people who would otherwise be cast aside.
I hope so. Kana takes a deep breath. You're probably right. It's just hard to see. Let's be on our way. This place gnaws at the soul. Ooh, honey, Ushgrim, is I believe how that's pronounced. Ushgrim. A willowy adolescent boy stands in the center of his cell, gawkish and stoop-shouldered. He stares straight ahead, the occasional blink his only movement, and it is unclear whether he registers your presence at all behind his glassy, doll-like eyes. In this state, the barriers between your soul and his are thin and porous, easily bypassed if you should wish it. Reach out for his soul. You close your eyes and edge forward toward the boy's soul, and as you near, a sudden malaise comes over you. You are cold and warm all at once, sweating and shivering and straining for breath as you did on the caravan journey. The soul you approach is the wrong one, a parasitic plant that strangles its host. It is predatory and pitiless, and you have crossed paths with it before. Too late does it occur to you to retract, and already you feel yourself plunging into some interminable abyss of thought and memory. You are standing in a cell now, the same cell, in the sanitarium. The halls are moonlit and empty, and you are waiting. At the far end of the ward, the door is open, revealing a flesh golem in silhouette beneath the stone archway. It makes its unusual rounds, the same stops every time, the misbegotten child of despondent creators. When the construct is close, you coil yourself up and spring forward, passing out of the boy's body as though it were a membrane. You can sense his body behind you collapsing to the floor, a puppet whose strings are cut. You are rushing towards the golem now, bodiless as a gust of wind. Quickly you think to yourself, and quickly you feel the strength hemorrhaging from your soul as you dart towards the makeshift abomination. You pass into the golem's shell and overtake the soul implanted within, encircling it, suppressing it, and contained in this new vessel you are strong again. You step heavy-footed down corridors unheeded by the other constructs, and scrutinized only by the wary, untrustworthy eyes of the mad, coming at last to an office piled with books and scribbled papers and the perverse implements of animancy. You set your oversized hands upon the large machine, a nest of globes and tubes and coils in the center of the room, and go to work, bending wires and unsettling alignments. Your surroundings are pulled past you, or perhaps you were pulled past them, and they dissolve into a blur. When they settle into place again, you are outside on a clear day, standing in front of a crowd stacked high above you on the tiered seats of an amphitheater. You are acting for the crowd, standing deliberately still, but this is no play. A balding man with rodent-like features is strapping you to a machine, the one you had tampered with. You see your arms for the first time, short and fleshly, unmistakably those of a little girl. But this body is not truly yours. Your mind still holds the same determination, the same hard-heartedness as before. The body itself is cold and vacuous. Unlike the others, this one has no soul of its own. The man speaks, and the crowd applauds in an enthusiasm worthy of a hero's entrance. "Bear witness," he says, and he pulls a lever. The machine shivers and sparks, and a bead of sweat rolls down the side of the man's brow, but the crowd's apprehension quickly gives way to awe as a crystal globe fills with a radiant mist that casts the entire theater aglow. He opens a valve, and the glow crawls through the tube along the length of copper, wiring that runs through a set of electrodes beneath your armpits. You feel nothing when it reaches you, as it should be, for you have been leading his work astray periodically for some time, altering notes and setting and playing puppeteer for Hollowborn. But you make it look how people would expect it to when a body is infused with a soul. In a moment, the machine goes dark, and the man unstraps you, eyeing you with a scientist's concern. He looks back up at the crowd. "Behold," he says, but there is an obvious hesitation in his voice. Slowly, you take a plodding step forward, then another and another. You look up at the man, giving him the eye contact of which no Hollowborn is capable, and the crowd gasps. The man looks relieved. "How do you feel?" he asks at a volume meant for the crowd, and this is the moment. At the top of your lungs, you let out a piercing shriek. The man comes towards you, his hand outstretched, but you run the other way, back to the machine. With all your strength, you drive your head into the crystal globe, and it shatters, streaking your head with warm blood. You drive your head down on the surface of the machine again and again, drawing panicked screams from the crowd, and by the time the man reaches you, your body has already ceased proper function and merely twitches on the cold ground. Satisfied, you depart the corpse in search of another unsuspecting host. Who could put their faith in animancy now? You are pulled again from your surroundings, transcending the boundaries of memories and lifetimes. Deeper and deeper, past betrayals and murders, lies upon lies, that form the thick webbing of plots beyond mortal comprehension. You settle at last on a room you have seen before, expansive, with a tall device encasing an Adra monolith at its center. The room is filled with people, and people all look at the device. You are yanked suddenly back to reality, and the once catatonic boy in the cell is looking directly at you, appraising, calculating. There is no mistaking now that it is the soul of the man who caused your awakening that gazes out from that borrowed husk. A watcher. You made me into a watcher. I need you to undo it. Is that so? He makes no effort to hide his disinterest, but he continues to search your eyes. He makes a slight grunting noise, and his eyes soften for an instant, and it seems, for that moment, that he recognizes you. He opens his mouth to speak, and then seems to think better of what he has to say. His jaw tightens. I know your look. You hunger for answers that elude you. It gnaws at your soul. It usurps your reason for being. You are like everyone. I will help you let go. He dodges backward and, with startling grace, putting himself out of reach. On his face there is no malice, only the dispassion of a farmer putting down a sick animal. Then suddenly he slumps forward. Damn, things getting freaky. All right. Let us get this going. If I remember correctly, this is actually quite the difficult battle. All right, let's see what happens here. Never mind. All right, you...
Following your lead. Mow it.
There we go.
Ixana. Raised up.
That's it! Well?
Wow. Ugh. All the screaming. All right, then. Let's put that down for now, just because we are going to end today's episode here. I still have to get through this entire area, which, if I remember correctly, there are enemies throughout the entire thing. But we're going to end it right there for now, because I'm out of combat. Now, what I like to do at the end of one of these episodes is go into the inventory and read any lore books. And this is the only one I think we have. If I correct? Yep. So this is one of the books that we have here. I will read through this with you. If you don't want to read along with me, just scroll ahead until you see that this little square is gone. But this is the Deerwood Part 5, The Proliferation of Animancy. This is the 5th part in a 6-part series that outlines the history of the Deerwood, which is the setting that we're playing in. This part talks about animancy and its involvement in the formation of this nation. Animancy, outlawed while under a Deer rule, was technically no longer taboo after Hadrit's Rebellion. Hadrit's Rebellion was the act that gave the Deerwood their independence. Academics began its study again in earnest in 2681 AI. By 2697 AI, there was almost 40 academics actively researching the field both in the Deerwood and the Vailian Republics, even though no significant results had been discovered. A tragic breakthrough of sorts had happened in 2704 AI. An animancer working in Balereach, that's one of the earldoms of Deerwood, accidentally shattered the souls of about a dozen volunteers who had been helping him. In retaliation for the deaths, the citizens of the area stormed his house and killed him. The Earl of the region, not wanting to waste resources or anger the locals any more than they already were, did nothing to find the head of the vigilante mob, but neither did he outlaw animancy. To ensure their own safety, most animancers moved from rural areas to where they were studying and settled in Defiance Bay, many of them choosing the emerging and wealthy district of Brackenbury as their home of operations. In fact, that is where we are now. While there are still few breakthroughs and the study of animancy continued for the next 24 years, it quickly slowed and it became cost prohibitive and complicated the more people learned about it. Most animancers couldn't afford to continue research without the support of donations or gifts from wealthy individuals and organizations. In 2737 AI, some animancers, desperate to continue their studies and seeing no other means of furthering their research, entered the forbidden ruins of Erglonfath to further their research. Quick background of history. When the Deerwooden colonists came to this continent, there was already people living on this continent, the native tribes of Erglonfath, and the Erglonfath had these ruins that they considered as holy sites, and the Deerwooden colonists were very interested in going on them because there were a lot of old artifacts that were useful, especially for things like animancy. But a few wars occurred and all that, and it ended with a peace treaty that said, okay, we Deerwoodens will not enter these forbidden ruins of your guys's because they're sacred to you. So these researchers entering the forbidden ruins actually threatens the peace of the nation with the local neighboring tribes. They discovered some such sites had strange artifacts that seemed to bear affinity to soul essence, and began to prod at the devices for further insight. Even with continued research, they are unable to tell quite what they have discovered. Eventually, they were found out by the Glonfathans. That's another name because, Air Glonfathans, who captured some of them, demanding they be punished for their crimes. The Deerwooden authorities, in order to maintain their treaties and keep the peace, had no choice. They allowed the animancers to be executed according to Glonfathan tradition. This led the Duke to make an additional proclamation. The study and practice of animancy on or even near the sacred Glonfathan sites would be punishable by death. In 2780 AI, in order to solidify relations again with the Glonfathans, the Deerwooden government allowed some animancers to begin training and experiment in conjunction with the Glonfathan mind hunters. They're native ciphers. Ciphers are kind of like psionics class. They're kind of like the Sinus. They're mind hunters. That pretty much sums it up. This is important to note. Like by 2780, even though they were causing problems over here, they're starting to work together over here. So this is good improvement, at least in my opinion. This was an exchange of information. The Animancers documented the secrets of the Mindhunters' powers. The Mindhunters learned new techniques for concentration, which assisted them in taking their powers to a level no Glonfathan had seen before. The Ciphers, no longer wary of the Animancers' intentions, trusted them to such a level that they convinced the Glonfathans to give some Animancers limited access to some of the training sites where the Glonfathans practiced. The Amanfoths of the Glonfathan tribes, which are kind of like the leaders of the tribes, opened the training grounds to the Animancers. They weren't allowed inside, as this was still strictly forbidden, but the general allowances by the Glonfathans were seen as a breakthrough in relations between the Deerwood and Air Glonfath. Over the next 8 years, the Animancers' research would continue unimpeded. With the exception of some minor squabbles, there has been no major strife between the two groups for almost 120 years since. And there you go. That is a bit of history of the Deerwood. Part 5, the proliferation of animancy, which is a source of a lot of tension for the people in this world. But yeah. Oh, let's quickly put the sound back on. I want you guys to hear all the screams. All right. Actually, I'll just cut it out there. Thanks for putting up with my shenanigans. Thanks, guys, for joining in on another episode of Gingereno's Pillars of Eternity playthrough. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Thanks, guys, for joining me in. I will see you guys next time.